You're originally from Ontario. What first brought you into working so closely with Inuit communities in Nunavik?
I would say after I finished my studies, I decided to work on a project with some researchers who were looking at how to support people who were giving end-of-life care in their homes and families. And so I traveled to different communities during that time, visiting and talking with people about what they needed, both in terms of materials, but also in terms of like emotional support. Yeah.
And when was this?
2014.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
10
that's,
years. Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
amazing. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Shawna Hordyk. I am a gardener first, a lover of nature second, lover of people is right up there. And I teach intervention, counseling intervention at the University of Quebec in Montreal. And also, I'm continuing to travel up to Nunavik and working with Inuit here in Montreal. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure.
Yes. And can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Leah May. I'm from Kuujjuaq. I'm Inuk. I work at the Nunavik Regional Board of Health and Social Services under planning and programming for the On the Land program called Nunami. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for being with us, ladies. I wanted to have you on this podcast because I work with Shawna. Shawna and I facilitate healing workshops and grief support training workshops. And then I wanted to have Leah May, who has attended our workshops and has become part of our team. So we're going to have a great discussion. So thank you everyone for joining us. So Shawna, I first met you in a healing workshop in 2020 at 2020?
Yeah, good question. I'm terrible with dates.
Me too.
Yeah.
People are like,
1984.
Did I have my baby yet?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not 2020.
No, she was a baby.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2021.
Okay.
Yes, November. Yes, it was November. Yeah, and it was at the Southern Quebec Inuit Association building where Inuit around Montreal attended this healing workshops, and it was through Satokvit Women's Association. Jean Innaarulik, who we had on another episode, was the executive director at the time, and she had asked me if I want to facilitate this, be one of the facilitators, and I had never facilitated a workshop. So it was my first experience, and that's when we first met and started working together.
Mm-hmm. It was in your backyard on a spring day that we started talking together.
That's true.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. And let's talk about the importance of workshops to be led by Inuit for Inuit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, so that brings me also then to your backyard on that day, yeah? Because there was an organization here in Montreal at the time that did a lot of grief support. They've closed since then and had gone up to the north, and we're talking about, like, they had gone up into Nunavik to be training, but they were talking themselves too about how they didn't feel like they also had the knowledge that they needed. And so when you and I started talking, I think you just right away spoke from your heart and spoke about your life and spoke about your own story. And that was what's inspired you, right? To be participating in these grief support workshops. And I feel like Inuit know this experience. I can bring like different ideas and knowledge that's coming from maybe some of the programs in the South, but nobody knows what fits and what doesn't fit. And I found that when we did that workshop together, and you were speaking about your own life, it just connected with people in a way that nothing else I think would have, and still does. Yeah.
Leah, can you talk about your experience? Like, can you talk about the difference between following a workshop by a non-Inuk versus a workshop that's led in your language or someone you can relate to?
Sure. First, the language. Just to give an example, I was hanging out with kids last week, and this little girl spoke to me about losses. But the social worker said, oh, she's never told us that before. So just language, I feel like the communication, and also experience. Like, we've experienced trauma, and we're able to help others because we know what they're going through, as opposed to if it's a non-Inuk giving a workshop. I feel like the connection and the understanding is limited in terms of relating or having felt the same emotions. But at the same time, I think also it does work, because there could be people who prefer that, let's say. But yeah, Inuit by Inuit, that's
Love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it really works better. The two-eyed seeing that we talk about really helps too, because as Shawna's been helping, but making sure that we're in charge of.
Just wondering what two-eyed seeing is for someone who has never heard that concept.
Well, it's bringing a Southerner, non-Inuk knowledge along with Inuit knowledge and putting it together.
Yeah.
And the type of grief that is more prominent for Inuit is grief that is not as common for a Southerner. Like, a lot of the times we're grieving suicide, which is not as common for a Southerner, and where suicide is so common for us, and for somebody to be able to, because we all know what that feels like.
Multiple.
Yeah, you
suicides.
you don't miss. I mean, every single Inuk is hit by suicide. There's not one that's left not affected by suicide. And with Southerners, not all Southerners know that type of pain, that type of grief, that type of loss. So I think Inuit facilitating something like that and automatically understanding that type of grief is so important.
Yes, very much. It's the understanding each other that helps connect us more, because for decades and decades we have been well, first of all, when we were colonized, it was oppression, and then through time, it's not as oppressive, but it's still very colonized. This colonized system where the white person comes, they know more than you, they impose their knowledge on you, they don't consult with you, they don't try to understand where you're coming from, but they have all the answers and they're there to save you. But through the years, with our generation more and more, we are starting to
reject the notion that other people have to come in and save us. That I think there's a fatigue of saviorism.
Yeah.
And we're really leaning into empathy towards each other more now in this generation.
Yeah. And have the confidence in our own knowledge and power and our culture.
And the strength to say, no, you don't know more than me.
Yeah.
You don't know better than me. Yeah. Because before, it was drilled in you that these Southerners had all the right answers. You were wrong. They are right. They know how to eat better. They know how to raise their children better. They know education better. They know grief better. They know, yeah. So.
And coming and asking for Inuk to be their assistant when it should be the other way around. I've experienced that, so now I put that foot down where I'm not gonna be someone's assistant because I have the knowledge also. So it's something I learned this year to be. Are you here because you want to work with me, or do you need me for your work?
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk about the difference between a typical clinical approach and an Inuit-led healing space.
Yeah. You want me to start with
Yes.
that? Yeah. So I'm going to actually give you an example of what I observed in the school actually recently. I was up north and I was helping to train a little bit with the SSP and the student counselor. Student counselors are Inuit, and the SSP counselors
What's
tend
an
to
SSP?
student support professionals that they're normally supposed to work together in the schools with kids that come from the South. And so this SSP worker was very well-intentioned, had a lot of knowledge from her training, and had been working with kids, and the kids liked her. Like they had a really strong connection. I could see that, hey? And this Inuk school counselor, she was starting for the first week at work. And so we were all meeting together, and the kids were there, and the SSP worker was leading an activity with the kids with the goal of having them being able to express themselves. And the SSP worker isn't Inuk, doesn't know the language. And so the kids were doing what the SSP worker was wanting, right, in terms of participating in this activity. And then, and the Inuk school counselor was part of this group. And at one point, the child turned to this Inuk school counselor and spoke to her in an institute and started sharing a little bit. And then this school counselor asked her and shared back with her. Asked her and kind of communicated back and forth. And it happened twice. That was one time. And another time where this child shared something with this school counselor that they had never shared with anybody, even though they had been with this other counselor for all this period of time with the structured activities and the model approach, right? And it was because this school counselor, I think, she cares. You could just tell. Right? And so then this child felt immediately like, okay, I can share this person, and could share it in an institute, which was huge. I would just want to say, if I can just say this as directly as possible, like any Inuit that are present for others in the experience of grief, are doing so much more than I or somebody else can do, because I don't have that rootedness in language and culture and history. And so the typical clinical approach would be, and this is something that I practiced before. I'm also a psychotherapist, and so, and I had a full-time psychotherapy practice, and that's setting up an appointment. Somebody comes during that appointment, they talk with you, and then when that 50 minutes is up, they go, and then they come back the following week. There's value in that. I think that it does a lot of positive. But it's been so interesting to be up north and to seeing what Inuit are just doing organically. Like when I was up in Saluit, I went to the sewing center, right? And it's a healing space as much as anything else. Family houses, a healing space as much of anything else, because it's this informal kind of, we're present, we're with each other. There can be laughter. There can be, in the midst of pain, there can be more painful sharing. There's the experience of creating, and a connection to culture, land, spirituality, whatever that may be for the person. And for me, I think the model that Inuit are doing organically of grief healing is stronger than anything I've seen in the South. There's much more of a collective approach, yeah.
What are the risks of imposing outside models of healing on Inuit communities?
Yeah, I'll answer it, but if I do, would you also answer it? Because I feel like we've had a little bit of these discussions, and I think you have some really important insights in here. But I feel like it can kill the spirit of a person. And so when we're suffering, we're in such a place of vulnerability. And that can go in two directions. It can go in the direction of, this is an opportunity for growth and transformation, because my life as I knew it isn't my life anymore. And so it can be an opportunity for, because I really believe life is stronger than anything, and that each of us has that seed of life in us that's stronger than any suffering and pain, and that wants to grow, yeah? And I think what we can do with our Southern approaches, if we're not attuned to the person we're listening to and following their lead, is that in that moment of vulnerability, when that seed is ready to sprout and become something new, we can like bury it again. Yeah, and not recognize that movement of life in that person in the way that they're needing to heal in their own, yeah.
Have you noticed or seen that in action amongst people that you've worked with, or?
Yeah, and you know what? To be completely transparent, I feel like even for myself, like when I go up to Nunavik, that I'm continually making mistakes and learning. Right, like even in even in some of the training in one-on-one with the school counselor SSP, that sometimes I can kind of get enthusiastic and excited about something, and then I realize, I just left that person behind. This is not where they're at. This is not what they need. Right, this is not what they're looking for, and I have to step back. Yeah,
I find that's a true strength you have, because you're so sensitive and careful. You're so kind and compassionate, very, very compassionate and very sensitive, and you pay attention to the room all the time.
I agree. When we're planning together, I'm like, okay, let's invite this person, and she's like, no, we're gonna keep it Inuit Leah. And I'm like, okay, and she brings me back to what my focus should be.
Yeah,
I really agree too.
Yeah. So Leah, when did you know that you want to help others?
I started to know when I stopped drinking. There came when I would follow the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the 12th step is you help others. So we really did follow those steps in rehab. So it came naturally. Like once I got back to Kuujjuaq, I was getting reached out. Hey, do you want to come to Innaarulik and do AA and go talk with them? And that's where I agreed, and that's where my eyes opened, my willingness to help, my capabilities arise. Like I didn't know I had these strengths in me where I could take my experience and then use it to help others. So yeah, when sobriety came, that's when I knew. And in the topic of grief, it's so knowing that I didn't have those resources or workshops when I was grieving made me want to develop activities for people going through grief. So it's become a passion of mine, and I thank you and Shawna for bringing me in this path of grief support.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just raise something? Because
Of course.
I really like your question, yeah? And I feel like this is a difference too between the South and the North, right? Like in the South, it's kind of like, okay, you finish high school, and then if you're encouraged to go to college, then you go to college, and then you get a degree, and then you're just kind of expected then, if you have the degree in psychology or social work or whatever, that you're going to go help people, right? Whether you're ready to or not. And often we're put in situations that we're not prepared for or ready for, because it's a whole different story when you hit real life. And so for me, I find like it's so meaningful. Like everybody around this table is here because you have a desire to help, right? And
It wasn't a next
no,
step.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then people listening to the podcast too are like, yeah, I have a desire to help, but how do I know if I'm ready? Like,
Yeah.
So what do you guys? Yeah.
It's the feeling of the peace that you get from getting sober and wanting that for other people, wanting them to feel to feel the feeling that it's doable, that you can feel better, you can get sober. It's not impossible, because when you're here, it feels impossible. So, like when we climbed the mountain and we did it, and we're just as shocked that we were able to do it, and we say, hey, you can do it too, and
Yes.
you want to help. I mean, it's such a deep wish for me too, that people can feel the freedom that I feel,
The clarity, to your eyes open.
Yeah.
Yes. And Leah, what was your turning point to become sober?
Well, I was going through a lot of grief over the years, and I turned to alcoholism because that was the easiest thing to do. We often feel so uncomfortable within ourselves that we just want to get rid of that. So I took that road. And then my family did an intervention because it had gotten way too bad. And then from the intervention, that plant was seeded. That seed was planted, sorry. It took me one whole year, then I got to rehab. So even though I didn't go right away, the seed was planted.
The seeds are so important.
That desire grew, yeah.
Because even if you fall off the wagon, even if you try a little, even if you have the hope to want, those are all seeds, and you carry those seeds to the mountain.
Yeah, I really didn't know how to take care of my grief, so I drank. And then I got addicted, and it took over my life, where that's all I did and to cope. But you
just
can
to even
change your
feel
life
normal.
I was just about to ask if you could explain the difference between managing grief with alcohol and without alcohol, because of course, whether or not a person is drinking or not, we all have periods of grief in our life and things that will change and never go back. But just the difference it made in your experience of grief.
So like all of us, we have piled on grief. Like someone dies every year, basically, someone we know. And so I used to grieve drunk, crying, sobbing.
Same, girl.
And I didn't know there was such thing as healthy grieving. Like I didn't know we can take care of that loss. I didn't know there was healthier ways to cope. So now that I'm sober and that grief, I'm able to take care of it. So when it does come, I get into action. So what am I going to do to feel better in this moment?
Instead of wallowing.
Yes. Instead
I
of feeling
used
sorry
to
for
do that a lot
myself,
too, the
pity,
wallowing.
oh my God, that my life is like this. My life sucks. I'm just gonna drink it away. But now when I do grieve, I take care of it. So I'm gonna do self-care because I'm not feeling well instead of grabbing that drink like I used to. So sitting uncomfortably,
Yeah.
getting through it.
Because God knows we've been sober a long time. The most grief I've ever had has been when I was sober, so.
Feeling it fully.
Yeah, you notice it's always there now.
It's so
because
real.
we drink to put it.
To not feel it.
Yeah, so you feel it there all the time. I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's raw and it's emotional. It's heavy.
Yeah.
But you feel better after going through it.
Yeah.
One thing I know I can say honestly now that I might have said before, but I was not qualified to say it, was like if somebody I know is grieving right now, like, I'll say, you're going to feel that cry, you're going to, but I promise you're going to get better. It's going to get better. Like, because in the moment, it feels like it's never going to get better. And I do know now, like if we fast forward 10 years ago to somebody I was grieving, I didn't think it was going to get better. But now that I've gone through grief, sober and really felt it and went through the motions. I mean, maybe I'm not grieving very healthy. I'm not, but I am grieving sober. So I'm already winning, And so when I say, and if grief happened to me today, I know no matter what I'm feeling, I'm going to get better. It's going to get better, So
Time.
yeah, I'm able to say that now. And that's really helpful.
Yeah.
That's
to have hope.
It's like, that's it. It's like, it's
Life
hope.
is stronger. Yeah. That's what Shawna was saying. That's the life in you.
Yeah.
That's strong. That's able to say that and believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
because in the moment it doesn't feel like that. And especially when you're drinking, it amplifies the pain. It amplifies the finality of it. It amplifies the sorrow and the darkness and the shadow and the unknown of it. It amplifies it all. But being able to be sober and knowing that, yes, you're going to go through all this pain. You're going to feel it for sure. It's there, but you're going to survive.
Yeah. But like, this is not going to be a light episode for sure. And it's important to have these conversations and to listen to people in similar situations or who have been in similar situations and how they've come out. And that's why we're having this conversation. And let's talk about how unresolved grief can play a role in community struggles. So the reason why I do this, I choose to do this work, it's hard work. It's not easy. But the reason why I want to keep facilitating healing workshops and grief support training workshops is to help our communities. So how does grief show up in intergenerational ways?
Yeah, I almost want to ask you guys to answer that. And then I can always add to it, but just based on what I've also experienced and known, I also just maybe want to mention, that I think we're all here,
because we've hit that bottom and experienced life there. And this is why it makes a difference, Tanya, when you say, you know what, you can get through this because you're an example of that. And so when you're bringing up now in communities, when that is not necessarily, because it's so scary, right? Like, I think we can't understate to what point it's so frightening to go to that place, because you don't know for sure that life will be there until it catches you. And it catches you in the form of like friends that care, right? And it catches you in those moments when you're with your grief and you're not, and you're just tolerating that horrible, painful suffering without turning to something to numb it. But you never know. We know because we've done it, but you don't know when you're in it until that happens. And so when we're talking about the impact of unresolved grief on communities, I think I have a real respect for how hard this work is, and especially I think in the context that people are trying to do this where, so I just wanted to add that, I guess, before you guys respond.
Yeah. So
I guess I'll start. Like many oldest grandchildren, when I was born, I was taken by my grandparents, kind of traditionally, no choice that my mother could make. It was them who took me. But there's a lot of people who had that experience and then who had their grandparents die on them young. So I was about 7 when I had to move back into my parents' home with my 2 siblings and somehow try to fit into the family again. But I had never really been part of it. And I had many grandparents. I had my mother's mom and her husband, because my mother had lost her father at 5. And then my ananatiak in Gangitsuk, who was my mom's atsapik. And then my father, he's my stepfather, but everyone knows my dad. His parents lived in Ontario, and I spent some of my childhood with them also. And by the time I had lost my final grandparent, it felt like everyone in the world who ever loved me, really, really loved me, was gone. And that I was completely alone in the world. And I was living in this house with my family, but it wasn't my family.
With
and
not real love.
Yeah, and it wasn't my family.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the uncles that I grew up with killed themselves. The uncles that I grew up with in my grandparents' home killed themselves. And we were the grandchildren generation that my grandparents raised, and now I'm the only one that was raised in their house who's still with us. And I think my reaction to grief was to just completely withdraw from the world and go completely inward. And from maybe 14 to the last 2 years, I was a shell. Because when you don't love yourself and you don't feel that anybody left in the world loves you, there's this feeling that you don't deserve the kindness that you're receiving, and you have to earn your place in the home or in the friend group or in the family.
Janice, I understand that.
Yeah, so living with that from childhood until I stopped drinking, basically, is when I started to confront all of these things. I think my grief made me quiet and shy and unable to fulfill my potential. Like now and people, like you were saying in the earlier episode, people see you and think you were always like this. But no, there was definitely a period where there isn't anyone in the world who loves you in your mind and in your heart, and in that moment it's real.
Your truth, that's what you feel. No matter how much somebody tells you they do love you, that's what you feel.
Yeah. And I realized, more recently than I wished, that I'm not the only one with that experience, and that like me and Leah grew up together and we went through our kind of drinking phases together, and we drank a lot together. But it was a long time of spending time with each other when we realized we both felt like a burden to each other as a friend. And then once we opened that up with each other, I was able to like reconcile that feeling with the other people in my life and recognize that just because it's not the safe and cozy love that you get from birth to whatever age of childhood, it's not the only kind of love that you can receive or give.
It's important too.
And
you can absorb it too, and it can be meaningful too.
But then when it's ripped away from you suddenly, because that was the part that I couldn't love myself through, because nobody else was loving me in a way that I felt loved. So, and then that just, I feel like so many people have so much potential, but they're suffering.
That hit
very much
home too, big time.
Yeah, very much. And that's why, like, for me, that's like so strong in me, because I want people to see their strengths, their
potential,
like their power. And everybody possesses that. Everybody is born with that. It's just the intergenerational trauma that we live through that just buries all of that, and then we
are surviving.
Forget. We're on survival mode. So there's no time to dream. There's no time to make plans. There's no time to believe.
You're in a cycle and you can't get out.
And that's what intergenerational trauma looks like in our people. It's we stop believing in ourselves. We don't make plans. We don't make goals. We don't have self-esteem. And this is all, when we're feeling those at the time, we don't know that it's not just us. This is intergenerational trauma. This is the result of many generations of untreated trauma. So parents, I often go back to this. As Inuit, we were a society, a communal society. We lived in camps. We were a family living with our grandparents, living with our uncles, our aunts, our cousins.
Complete social structure.
Yes, everybody had a role. Everybody helped each other. There was, like, children's tasks were take care of other children or take care of the puppies, to get the puppies accustomed to humans. And the children were sent outside to check the weather in the morning. Women were sewing. The men were out hunting, providing. So it was this system that was functioning for hundreds of years. And then all of a sudden, this stranger comes and says, "You're going to hell if you don't live my ways. And you're filthy, you're nothing, your language sucks, and you have to stop all your cultural practices because they're all evil.
I'll abuse you.
I'll steal your children.
And I'll be, exactly. And I'll abuse you, and I'll
take advantage of you.
Give you all this trauma that you can't deal with. And you have to be quiet about. You're
filthy. You, like, everything destroyed our society. This functioning system for hundreds of years, all of a sudden just
shattered in one generation.
And that's not long ago.
So our parents and my parents' generation, forced to go to Indian day schools and federal day schools and residential schools, where they're physically hurt for saying anything in Inuktitut. So that, in a child's developing mind, teaches you anything Inuit is wrong. So there builds the lack of self-esteem. There it builds the mentality of I'm lesser than this haluna. And this mentality continues as they grow. And for people who went to residential schools and were abused in every way, shape, and form, mentally, physically, sexually, emotionally, and cut from their families. So they no longer had a parent, a kind, loving, nurturing parent there. They were not supported through their suffering while in these residential schools.
Not
for
nurtured
years.
in their growth at all.
None.
Yeah.
And sent back as strangers to their family. They were now strangers to their family. And how
Yes.
can you expect this mother to have the same connection with her little boy who left 7-8 years ago? They don't know each other anymore, and that's your mom.
And on top of it, not to mention the hormonal changes that a teenager goes through, that's another like psychotic episode in itself, even in a safe, nurturing environment. Just that biological experience is crazy already. But through all the trauma, and then you grow up, and then there's no more connection with your family, then you have to relearn your culture, and then you're like angry because of all the trauma that you experienced in residential school and federal day schools, and then you become a parent without any of the tools that you would have learned in a safe, nurturing environment. So it's no wonder that a lot of parents don't possess the tools to be a nurturing parent. And then they have children, and then it just continues because we can't give what we don't have. We only give what we have. So that's how intergenerational trauma shows up. That's how people are violent. That's how people, and this is what we see a lot in our communities, because of course there's a lot of healing too that's happening, but it's prominent. The negative seems to be prominent.
I think we've gone over a hill where the negative was more prominent than the healing. And now I think these next generations have reached a point where I think we're exhausted.
Yeah.
At some point.
And a little more educated.
Yeah.
The times have changed a bit. People are ready to decolonize. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely that generation, that very angry generation. No wonder, because they were abused so deeply and then brought home and silenced. So, you're putting a lid on a boiling pot, and that's who's raising the children, but yeah, like remember when we had Elia, and the way she spoke about how this generation is healing. And I remember we said something like, whatever we did in our generation to get you guys where you are was all worth it.
Yeah.
To to have been your pillow so that you guys will make it better for the next generation. And I feel like that's happening, People are, and another really big thing about healing is accountability. And in order for us to heal, we need to be heard. And Canada was not listening for a really long time. So it didn't, they needed to hear our truth.
Yeah, and validate it.
Yeah. And so I think that that's starting to happen too, slowly. People are starting to understand why we are in so much pain as a people, why we're so full of trauma. And when they can understand and acknowledge why the pain is there, then that's healing as well. So, our next generation is, it's like the trauma is watering out.
I agree. I had a conversation with the youth department at CLSC when I was doing beading with them, and I asked them what the youth think of alcohol, like in this day, because we're 13 and we're like, we want to try it. So I asked them, and apparently they're more educated and they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And that was music to my ears because I worry a lot for my siblings, and even my siblings, like my sister just turned 18 and she doesn't want to drink. So I'm like, just seeing it, I see it a lot now in the youth younger than me, who are not taking that path of partying where how we did. Yeah. And it's really reassuring.
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, we also have these different phenomenons that are happening that we didn't have to deal with on our journey at that time, when drinking was introduced and when we were starting to experiment with it. Like the drug epidemic that is spreading like wildfire up north, and that's so scary.
It is
so scary. So it's almost like you get 2 steps ahead and then we're thrown back one. But the best thing we can do is educate and talk about it. And like even today, even our last episode with Shawna, just starting from nutrition and, all these little steps to give us the tools, give our children the tools to make better choices.
I think it comes a lot from they were watching.
Yeah.
They saw what was happening and they were like, oh, I don't want to be like that.
I know that's for me. Like a lot of my values today as a person were not because I learned beautiful values. It was because I didn't want to be like what I was watching,
I have we were talking about this earlier on break, but I personally have a lot of guilt and shame that I'm really working through now that the kids whose parents I partied with are old enough to tell me they remember this and that. And, I don't want to, I hardly ever use the word regret, but I do feel a weight on myself for what I contributed to the trauma that those kids experienced.
The hindsight.
Yeah.
And it's painful.
Yeah.
But I get that too. Like I've had young adults come up to me and say, I remember you being drunk and doing this and doing that. And I'm just like, I am so sorry that you had to see that. But you have to flip that switch to where you acknowledge it and you say,
I'm sorry.
You can say that. Yeah, you can apologize. But you don't even have to say anything more because they see that you were like that back then, but now you're not. You're living a positive lifestyle with valuing your well-being.
Trying.
Yeah. I have a hard time with that too when people are like, you're doing so good, you're sober, and I don't always feel like that. I don't feel like people should look at me as an example. I'm trying my best, but I struggle too. But the thing is, as long as you're trying,
Yeah.
And maybe this is one of the biggest forms of grief that we live also, is that we can't go back and undo things. I think we all have things in our lives we would like to just go back and undo.
Oh, yeah.
And we can't.
Oh, yeah.
And so we just grieve that too, hey? And I think if we allow ourselves, like we were talking about earlier, to tolerate that grief, then it doesn't have to come in between us and the relationships. And then it can come back to, I think, what you were saying earlier, of just wanting to look at people and see them for who they are and draw out that strength in them and just mirroring that, hey? Like, yeah, that gives us that freedom to move forward in those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to forgive ourselves and show ourselves some kindness. Like we were doing our best when in our in our full-fledged
we had
sorrow glory.
Yeah. I know.
Like I used to be in that guilt also, where I'm like, all the things I did were always like lingering in my head. But there's a new approach that I've been practicing, is that my road was paved exactly how it's supposed to be for me to be where I am today.
Yes.
So I keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That hard
And
fucking shit had to happen.
I mean, Leah, like, you are you because of that,
Yeah.
And I mean, you have the best character in the whole world. Like, I mean, imagine we were
back.
just perfect. How boring. Yeah,
I lost it for a while. It's coming back. And I learned a lot of self-love along the way.
Yeah. I understand that too. Even like 2 years into my sobriety, I was still very unable. Like I had so much anxiety. I was scared. I didn't want to talk. I was scared to take I'm still scared to take the garbage out. But after a while, like, you become you again. Yeah.
And more.
Yeah.
And so much more. Yes.
Like, so many doors open.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been great. And even though, like you were saying, things could be going good, but you could still not be well and mentally, like.
Oh, I know.
But always looking ahead, like, this too shall pass.
Or it could be worse.
I could be drunk.
Yeah, I know. That's what keeps me going, eh? I'm like shaking with anxiety, and like the answer would be go get some help, but I have so much anxiety I can't even go to get help from a therapist. Like, that gives me anxiety. But it could be worse. I could be drinking, like I'm scoring a little bit better.
Like, Leah, why are you so scared to go in that store? You used to go in there drunk.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I hate going in the store.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
One step at a time. We're already at the end of our part one of this with Leah May and Shawna Hordyk. And please stick around for part 2. And everyone at home, thank you so much for your support. If you wish to support us further, be sure to head over to our Patreon on patreon.com/northern and join us over on Discord to keep this conversation going. And we'll see you in part 2. Yay!
You hungry? Looking for a tempting treat? Hold on till I absorb some heat. Some added tang might please you too. I'll slide into an oven-fresh bun, and I'm ready for your eating fun.
Why don't you try a juicy good hot dog? Mmm, delicious.
All right, welcome back to part 2 with Shawna Hordyk and Leah May on this episode of Northern, where we are talking about healing and grief support, and we're gonna get back into this conversation. But before we do, I have a Christmas gift for Tanya.
We were trying not to cry.
It's not to cry for. It's silly, yeah, because we didn't have a chance to see each other because you moved away. I'm so happy for you that you have your own home and like you bought your own home, and I feel like it even brought us closer together.
It did. Like you call off. We speak more often.
Yeah, we do.
I feel like I can breathe there. So like I have the space to enjoy our relationship more. Oh my god. Are you being jelly? You always find the most appropriate things. Oh my god.
That is one of the lines you say.
I say that a lot. Stop talking.
You say, don't talk.
Thank you. Oh, I love you and I love them.
They don't compare to the beautiful earrings that you give me every time. Like these are polar bear dyed polar bear earrings that Tanya made, and here I am giving her stupid socks.
No. I love them. I love seeing my earrings on you. You're my favorite model.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
And I proud like
I know you
proudly wear them.
You were wearing some yesterday too.
Yes, totally. All right, let's get back to work.
I love it.
Let's talk about Sakko Civic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Sakko Civic. Sakko Civic is a program that through the Satokved Women's Association was created, and it's a program that Shawna and I have been designing. It's a workshop for people who would like to become supporters of those who are in grief. So Sakko Civic in Inuktitut means a place to let go. So this program, this unique program, is tailored to Inuit. And why we find it so important is, again, Inuit who are attending these workshops appreciate much more. They learn much more. They take much more because it is done in their language. It's given in their language, and they can respond in their own language. The experience that we all have is similar to each other. So there's this connection. We don't feel so alone. So Sakko Civic is a training program where we train Inuit from Nunavik who would like to start support groups for people who are grieving. Because in Nunavik, we really much lack services and resources for emotional and mental health. And Leah attended our workshops. So Leah, can you tell us what you think? I'm putting you on the spot. What you think about the workshop?
Well, I took Sakko Civic last April. And since then, a lot has evolved. Like it opened a spark in me. I came to do the training, and having experienced my own grief and having not knowing what to do with it, this gave me a road, like a path where, as grief is often like a subject that we're like scared to approach. But what you taught me and Shawna is we have to approach it. Let's just go for it, which is like, that's when I started coming up with the beading and grieving workshops after learning how to do support, and which was really successful. I went to Salud and did a beading and grieving workshop we worked on a beaded piece to remember your loved one that you lost, and using their favorite color and so on, and having open discussions, and they were able to present their piece. And remembering, that is having intention on the piece, and that's while you're grieving. And it was so cute because like the elders were participating, and they got to go home and continue the piece. And they said, we wouldn't have been grieving healthily if you didn't bring that project. Like having intention in an art piece and whatnot. And since then, I've worked with you guys in giving the Sakku Civic, where I co-facilitated with Beatrice and Shawna in Kuujjuaq, and just connecting with the women and having ideas together. It's a really good, I really appreciate having taken the Sakku Civic program, because here I am today with the projects that I'm working on grief, and knowing that there isn't much up north, and having to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, or your social worker once a month for 1 hour. And that's your only time. So that I experienced that, so I wanted to start developing more grief support projects since I took Sakku Civic.
And you're starting a grief support camp?
Yes. So I participated with, I went with them to Vancouver in the fall for a grief and bereavement conference. And there was a presentation on a grief camp called Lumara. And that sparked the idea where I work for On the Land program. I could do this. I could go create a camp with kids who are grieving. And so I've been working on a project. We're pretty much moving forward. It's been really fun. So we're heading to take youth ages 15 to 19, all girls, about 10. We'll go by boat. We're going to have tents, and we're going to do mixing culture and healing workshops on the land.
Oh, so powerful.
Like Leah is like doing leaps and bounds.
It's been really, really fun organizing and just creating that space, because like kids aren't speaking. How can we provide a safe space for kids to grieve and
yeah. And that's what I find really, really good is seeing kids, young, like teenagers who are aware that they want to get help, they want to heal, they want to start their adult life with healing. And that's amazing, because like I didn't have that. I only started my healing like really when I got sober, and this was at 29.
And imagine the enthusiasm you have in your journey right now at your age. If you could give that enthusiasm to that 15-year-old girl in the beginning of her journey, what she can do with that.
Yeah.
Oh, how powerful.
Yeah, like it's because we didn't know that we needed healing at the time. That's why we like abused alcohol so much. That's why we did so many regrettable things in our life that created so much shame, and like it just trampled the little self-esteem that we had, if we had any at all. But when teenagers start healing, understanding, and having this awareness, it's gonna avoid so much of that unnecessary hurt.
Trying to numb.
Yeah.
And so in the psychosocial training, we talk about some of what Inuit are already doing that has such a healing impact.
Yes.
And so when we were putting the psychosocial training together, one of the things that we did right away was, before I continue, I just want to say that psychosocial is also built on the work that your mom has been doing up north, that IVP has been doing up north. This isn't happening in a vacuum. There's been and natural helpers that have been working with grief for a long time, but are just themselves limited too in how much that they can do. And so with psychosocial, one of the things when we were putting this together, we decided that part of the day would be sharing some of the information about the difference between grief and traumatic grief, what happens in the brain and the body when we're grieving, when there's traumatic grief. And then also, and you've been very much a part of all of this creation. You suggested also we need to talk about shame, that also is something that's so linked to this experience, but then also brought very much in the importance of spending a part of the day and doing art and doing things that connect us to life, that whenever dealing with grief, we're not only dealing with suffering, but we're also keeping a foot on a solid foundation, so that we're always moving back and forth in a way between the suffering and the strength that's there. And in Leah's project, I don't know if you want to say a little bit about the brain, or if you want me to comment on that.
Let's do that, because like when we're just consumed in our grief, which we are a lot of the times when we're Inuit, because we say this all the time, we are just suffering a death after a death after a death, even before we're even past a grief stage, like we're hit again with a death. And this is not just losses through death, it's also relationship losses, it's all kinds of losses.
Adoption and foster care can be a loss for some people.
Yeah, employment can be a loss. Opportunities, dreams, pets.
Wow. Yeah. That's where all my freaking grief is.
Yes. So we don't. It's impossible sometimes to try and be like all academic about it, but it's very good to understand what's happening within our body when grief happens, so we can be more observant rather than just being consumed by it and not know what's happening,
and more compassionate
and
more
less compassionate. Yeah,
because there's a very physiological process that we're stuck in.
Yeah. So there's differences between a normal grief. So let's say your a grandmother is very old. She lived a great life, a long life, and you're expecting, she's at her final days. So you're able to expect that. It's the day is coming where she's no longer going to be with us. So you're prepared for that in a way, versus someone suddenly had an accident and then they passed away. So there's differences in those kinds of losses. So the way we handle those can have an impact. The way we in our life, if grief hits us harder if we have other risk factors, like what the upbringing that I had, for example. Was my household a supportive one, or was it a traumatic childhood? Did I have support? Did I have a nurturing environment? So that's a risk factor if we didn't have a safe environment. What are the other risk factors?
Some of the other risk factors are related also to what you guys were talking about earlier. If it happens and substance abuse is
Yes.
a part of the coping mechanism, then that can affect how the grief is processed. If we don't have a close attachment and a supportive network, that can affect the process.
I'll say one of the, what is it called? Factors?
Risk factors.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that has hindered my grief is the fact that I need to work. I need to work.
Right.
I don't have time to grieve.
Yeah, as a self-employed person.
And that has been so hard with the amount of grief that I have.
Yeah.
And the amount of work that I have to do. Just not having the cushion, to take that time for myself.
Right.
And somebody explained to me one time that one of the reasons that this was an Inuk woman who explained this, that one of the reasons that the message was passed from one generation to the next, that you have to stop grieving and keep living, was, according to her, that was the reality of Inuit in the past also, that they just had to survive. And so they had to put that. So I think you're right. I agree with you also that is an important risk factor if we don't have that space. And you see this with, parents sometimes too, that are raising kids and can't grieve a spouse, who can't grieve a child because they've got other obligations and they're just trying to keep going from day to day. Yeah. And I think you guys named earlier too the multiple grief. That's also a risk factor.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so what happens when you have grief that becomes traumatic grief is that grief then gets stuck in a cycle in the survival and emotional part of our brain. And our body stays in this state of, we talk about this in the training, in this state of tension, because there's just not the space or the ability to be able to really fully breathe and let go. And so physiologically, when we're in shock.
That happened to me today. Yeah. And I always feel like it's right here. And that's why I cry so easily, because it's always right here. It's so close to me. My pain is so close to me because I never went through it. I keep working. I keep going. And then when Vanessa was talking about nutrition and the words she was using, and I was having so much trouble keeping it together because it's so close to me, And it's because I haven't taken the time to, I know it's because I haven't taken the time to, so that all the pain lives so close.
And that's a tough way to live.
It is. It's exhausting.
It is, yeah. And so I know for myself in my own life, there was a period where I just had to stop because I felt like I'm not becoming more alive anymore. I'm becoming deadened by what I keep trying to hold on to and keep going with, right? And so I did go into poverty for a period of time just because I needed to take care of myself. And I'm not telling you to do this at all, but I do think in order to heal, sometimes we end up making huge sacrifices because we just don't have a choice. Either we do that or we just continue to be weighted down, and this has an impact on our physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And so in the training we talk about this, that we talk about the brain. You want me to share this?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm going to use the fist because this is often how we use it. So the brain has three parts that are related specifically to what we're talking about today. This part here on the wrist is kind of like the survival brain.
this is the part of our brain that's right here that gets activated if you're walking down a road up in Kuujjuaq, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this four-wheeler is driving directly to you, and you jump out of the way. Even without thinking about it or feeling about it, it's this survival brain in you that got activated, that jumped to the side of the road. You notice that your hands are sweaty. You notice that we actually play this out in our psychocivic training. We role play it. You notice that your chest is pounding. You notice that your stomach is tight. You notice that shortness of breath. Yeah, you can't.
You're shaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't think because your body just reacted to that threat. Yeah, exactly. Can't process. Your body just reacted to that threat and did everything it needed to do to keep you safe, which is great. What happens with children and adults who go through that over and over and over again, that survival part of their brain becomes larger. And the next two parts of the brain, which is the feeling, perceptual part, like where the emotions are and where the perceiving is. Like right now, I perceive softness, right? I perceive in this room a lot of caring and compassion.
By touching something soft.
Yeah, right? Like we perceive through our five senses, right? And we also perceive emotionally what's going on. That's in this part of the brain here, yeah? This part of the brain, when we're experiencing a traumatic form of, when we're experiencing these risk factors or experienced a traumatic form of death, like what you were saying about the differences, that part of the brain is also activated once that danger isn't there. This third part of the brain is our thinking brain that tries to make sense of things, that tries to okay, put a story to something. Okay, this is what happened, that what happened, that what happened. What happens when there's multiple grief experiences or when these other risk factors are in place, that final stage that's needed for us to be able to come to some kind of resolution, like it's very painful, it's hard, but we have some kind of a meaning that we attach to the loss. Like you were saying earlier, you attach a meaning to the fact that you wouldn't be here where you are today had you not gone through your suffering. And so you attached a meaning to that. You were able to do that, yeah? But you were saying, had you been drinking, you would not have been able to do that. And that drinking would have kept you in this part of the brain where you're feeling, when you're in a state of survival, but you're not able to work it through. And the part of us that is, I think, a spiritual being is the part that can integrate all of these places, yeah? And if we never get to this place of being able to be present in the moment that we're in and experience the life and the love that's there and are constantly moving between survival feeling, there's actually a physiological change in our brains and also in our bodies because we're constantly in that stress kind of a state.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
Yeah. So we're constantly triggered. So the five senses. So I always use myself as an example when we're giving our workshops. When I was 14, our house burnt down and my brother and my little sister died. So I was in that house. So I smelled fire with my nose. I breathed in the smoke. So I felt the burning in my throat, and my eyes also felt the smoke, so I was burning in my eyes too. And I could hear the alarm, and outside was super foggy when this fire was happening. So those were the things that I felt. So whenever I hear there's a house burning. So that part of my brain, my survival part of my brain is switched on. Danger, 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 danger.
You know this smell, you know this
feeling,
yeah.
like my brain is saying people are going to die. So it sends me, not anymore, but it did in the past. It sends me into, it would send me into a panic because my brain was saying, when you smell smoke, when you hear fire, it equals people dying.
Loss.
Yeah. So same thing with any other traumatic event. It can be color, it can be taste, it can be songs, it can be music, it can be a touch. So a lot of these triggers, when we're not aware of them, our brain is constantly being like switched from this thinking part of our brain, which makes logic. That's where we store language, our communication ability, our creativity is all here. Rationality. And when our brain here, when we're always traumatized, when we're always suffering through grief, it's hard to learn anything. It's hard to focus on anything. It's hard to process anything. It's hard to communicate. So children, a lot of children are living in that state of survival all the time.
And so I think what you're saying is important, hey? Because sometimes we see children and we see youth who are grieving and we don't see sadness. We see all sorts of other emotions. We see anxiety, we see anger, we see... Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
We see
Behavioral problems.
Yeah.
And we label them. This is a bad kid.
Yes.
A bad kid always sent, because I used to work at the school before I moved to Montreal. I was a school secretary for 6 years.
Yeah.
And they were always labeled. But my mom was the school principal at the time, and she spent a lot of time counseling these children. But to people who don't understand, these kids are labeled bad kids when they're just on survival mode.
And that survival mode, when they're trying to relax, keeps getting triggered.
Yeah.
And when it's a physiological thing.
Because it's a physiological thing. They can't sleep. Mm-hmm. So they're not sleeping at night. But when they're in the school, that's where they feel safe. So their body can relax and then they fall asleep.
That's so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to comment that the front part of the brain isn't fully developed in children.
Yes.
And you're, I think, 25 when it does fully develop. So people get into their 20s with so much compounded grief and trauma, and having been labeled a bad kid, or having made choices that brought them to a place where they might not be satisfied with. But now they're adults. Now they're out of the systems, out of care, out of school, out of whatever. And they still don't have the fully developed brain to process the daily onslaught of life on top of everything that their survival brain has been clutching onto for their whole life.
Yeah, and has been reacting to. Mm-hmm. And so this is where what Leah is doing is so important, right? And this is where, like, and thank you for sharing also, like, where you're at realistically, because there's the reality of people's lives. And you're saying my
realistically,
reality...
this brain is all I got.
Okay.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I really feel that.
And realistically, you're saying you can't just take 2 years off and take some time to heal, right? And there's people up north also who are saying, realistically, I don't even know if I can get through a day feeling this pain and be able to function. And so in that realistically, like that reality, when Leah is doing just one little small activity of, let's using the example of the elders with the beading, right? What she's doing is she's bringing a group of people together that all have a shared experience and that all care enough about it that they want to, move forward with their, and not stay in that place of frozenness or suffering. So already
as a member of that group, when I walk into that group with Leah, there's a lot that's happening already. I'm feeling that, okay, somebody cared enough to put this group together. That's touching my heart in a profound place, and I'm feeling already it's going to have a physiological change in me, like, I'm not alone. That I'm not alone is huge, right? So already that's happening. Then she's bringing in color, right? And this is what's so beautiful about your art also, and the kits that you make that, people can use. Bringing in color, bringing in sensation, bringing in create like ways to express creativity. And the person doesn't have to be thinking about their loss, but already in that part of the perceiving feeling brain that has been so associated with suffering, Leah is making a connection between it's possible to feel suffering and it's possible to feel color, the touch of beads, the feeling of success.
And celebrating the person you're grieving. Like,
yes.
What I thought of right away when Leah was describing that program, and what touched me was imagining elders who haven't grieved for maybe 50, 60 years, this loss that was so important to them, and finally having the space to do that. And then having that little special color to celebrate that person that they loved so much, and bringing that home and having a beautiful memory attached to that instead of the really old grief.
Exactly.
Intentional, active work. Like there was a widow lady too. Her husband died a long time ago, but she still did the piece for him, and she would talk. Oh, we used to go berry picking on that mountain with him. Like memories come, and just remembering is grieving. So it gives the opportunity to be together, connected, in a safe space. While some don't like to talk, they can still be thinking while doing the art. Yeah. They're listening and they're present, grieving, as opposed to just sitting there and being sad. They're putting intention to the piece. And another great way someone mentioned before is putting intention in your day to remember your loved one that you lost. For example, there was a lady who said, I have all different mugs in my house, and I've associated each mug to who they remind me of a person that I've lost. So each morning when I wake up, I choose a mug carefully, and I choose that mug who reminds me of the person I've lost, and I sit there and I grieve while I drink my coffee. Just putting those intentions in your daily routine is helping your grief. So just, oh, that reminds me of that person. I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to see it every day. Like little things are big.
It's so big.
To commemorate.
And gentle.
Yeah.
The other thing I've noticed, because we also gave a training for school counselors, our grief support workshop / training, hey? And I noticed that you had brought in music also. And so that was... So one thing I've just really enjoyed about animating these workshops with you is that I feel like you track very closely where people are also. And so there's these moments where you're bringing in like music that's pretty just relaxed flow, and there's other moments where the music is more like, And I feel like because you just have a really fun sense of humor anyways, that you just like that you're just bringing that out also in people. And so I'll never forget that training, I think, because I really saw that at one moment
somebody is like just in this really deep pain, and then the next moment they're showing you something and they were acting something out and they were just laughing, and it was sincere and it was genuine because and this was a workshop that was done in Inuktitut, so I hadn't followed everything that was happening, but whatever it was, it gave this woman permission to feel the depth of her pain. And then automatically and spontaneously, the joy came with it. And that both came together because she had felt so held, I think, in the context of the sharing. Or
Yeah, we see so many beautiful moments when we're giving these workshops. Hey, like the strength of these women. And they like we're teaching them stuff like practical stuff, sure, but they're learning their own strength, and that's what makes me keep wanting to give these workshops, is for these women to see their own ability.
And I think they hear, because you give an example of your story when we're giving them what the activities they need to do. So one of them is one that we call the blueberry bush. Where they're talking about their own historical roots, but then also talking about their own strengths and their own vision, their own gifts.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like I keep saying, like when we're so consumed by grief, we don't think about those things. But these exercises that we do in these workshops, and like I'm telling this to our listeners, if there are workshops in your area that you're thinking of going to, take it, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a healing workshop, like any workshop, like any training. It's so helpful, empowering.
I just want to say there's a lot of trainings now where maybe if you didn't get your high school diploma, that you can put credits towards.
Yes, through the adult ed. So and they have nothing to do with academics. It's like cultural, traditional, cultural,
vocational,
skills, style
skills
that are not the conventional academic courses. Well, like fish skin tanning, for example.
Gummick making.
So to take the workshops.
I did that workshop, the Makivik art workshop, when I was 19 years old. And I said it before, that was my epiphany.
Trajectory changing moment.
That was the moment I realized what I can do. And I like when we spoke about it, I said, up until that point, I wasn't good at anything. I didn't feel like I was good at. I felt worthless. And then I did this little workshop, and I felt like I could do something. You know? So do the work. I want to do your workshop.
Or if people want to start workshops too, that I'm sure people want to develop things but don't really know where to go, but reach out, say, I want to do this, who can help me do this?
And this is
it all starts with an idea.
And I think this is what's so beautiful about it, is that grief healing in the end is very simple. It's bringing people together. It's creating a safe space so that people that want to share can, people that don't have to. And it is then allowing people to access the safety in their own body and breath again.
So these to get back to what we teach in these workshops. So we talk about how the brain is affected, how the body is affected when our trauma is triggered. Then when we're aware that we are being triggered, that's where we can take our power back. Before I had any understanding of any of this, and before I had any healing, if I would get triggered, I would be triggered for weeks, for days, weeks, months, and just be in a depressive state and just being very angry, and I didn't understand why. Until I realized, okay, I'm being triggered. This is just a trigger. It's just a response that my brain is having to this season, for example, like February was always a trigger for me without me realizing, because it was the time where I was sexually abused as a child. And until I realized that, then I knew, okay, it's February, my body is remembering again. So recognizing that and knowing that didn't make my trigger take that many weeks to get over. It could be hours instead of weeks. So you really get your power back when you recognize your triggers, because you now know the signs. Okay, I'm panicking, I'm having anxiety. I don't know where this anxiety is. I don't know what the cause of my anxiety is, but it's coming from somewhere. And then when you know these things, then you're able to say, oh, okay, it's because of this.
Yeah, like things that you used to react to in a heavy way. If it happened now, you're able to deal with it in a much healthier way. Yeah, like as opposed to being upset for weeks.
Or drinking.
I could find logic, I could find reasoning and get past it and not hold on to it.
Yeah.
And try to understand the other person, like as opposed to before, oh, we're going to hate each other, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is a part of the healing process. And it helped me one time when somebody explained to me, because one time I hit bottom after I thought I was finished hitting bottom. So I thought I was right back to where I started. And she said, no, your bottoms are just going to get shorter. Like you were just saying, right? Like, so you're always going to have, at least for a long period of time, those really, really painful states, right? And feeling like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to ever get out of this again. Let it be, you will, and it'll just get shorter. And that changed a lot for me.
Yes, for me too.
And this is where I feel like Nunami fits in also here, yeah? Because when we're in those moments of down, everybody has their own healing spaces. Like for me, I said, oh, actually, I'm a gardener first, right? You're an artist first. You're an artist first. Oh, well, we have a lot of artists in the room. but this is what when we bring ourselves into a sensory space where we are feeling kind of the richness of life again in using our five senses, or at least three of them, then we're making different connections in our brain. And so then that suffering isn't only associated with feelings of helplessness and despair, that suffering becomes associated with beauty and creativity. And so when you're bringing people on the land, there's times when people just can't process here. It's just not possible to process in that thinking part of the brain. And what you're doing is you're rebuilding the capacity to feel, and you're rebuilding the capacity for the body to rest when you're bringing them into safe environments. And because it's such a rich sensory experience, plus it's fun with whatever you're doing, with the activity itself, there's just a lot happening again that doesn't have anything to do with conversation. It's just an automatic shifting of the body.
Yeah. So that's the training that we're trying to teach, is how do we step away from just being in this triggered survival mode? How do we start moving away from that part of our brain to part of the thinking and more what's that?
Rational?
No, the emotional regulation. Coming back to emotional regulation. So that's what we teach. And what does Inuit culture have anything to do with that?
Yeah. And helping each other, as like we were saying, okay, our therapist comes once a month for an hour. But your training, the Sakko Civic, gives that opportunity for Inuit to help Inuit.
Yes.
And basing that on things that Inuit have been doing for thousands of years, right? It's amazing everything that is already in place in communities, but maybe isn't always. And this is our fault as Halunat. We came in and we were like, okay, we've got it, and we weren't looking at, okay, how in the world have you guys gotten this far? And we weren't trying to understand, what are you doing? Like, what is the richness of your own practices already and relationships already, and how can we validate and recognize that? It was like that from what I understand, that wasn't necessarily recognized, and I feel like it's so time to do that. And I think we have a lot to learn in the South from from who you are. Yeah.
So those practices are creative work, sewing, drawing, sculpting, making.
Well, we talked about this before, about how we grieve in our culture and how we sit with our silence. And when somebody dies, and it's the norm in our culture, when somebody dies, everybody in the community gathers at that person's home. And sometimes all you hear is the closest spouse or the closest to who has passed wailing, deeply wailing, and they have the silence and the support around them,
Being
and
present.
and
Just holding space.
and and there's that's it. And everybody, there's people on the floor, there's people doing puzzles, and people bringing food. People don't say a word. They walk in the door, they bring something to the table. There's somebody doing the dishes, there's somebody, and all you can hear is this deep wailing, and everybody allowing that person to feel,
That is strength, and that is love. Absolutely.
And that's how we've always done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how can we continue the support after the death?
Yeah.
And that's where,
That's where, like, we to understand physiologically what we can do to help our brains regulate again. So it's being with other people, doing community stuff like fishing together, sewing together, just being together, just having that sense of connection to other people, this support.
And that's also where it is important for us to accept the help that is being offered to us too by Southerners, because we're at a time where our people have never experienced such compound grief. Like maybe just this would have worked 200 years ago.
Yeah.
With somebody dealing with one major grief a decade. But when we're dealing with major grief every year, maybe we do need help. Maybe we do need to understand more about what's going on in the brain alongside our traditional ways.
Yes.
And to put technical terms to things, and to put solutions or tools and processes and workshops, and we need more. We need more than the way that we have been doing it, because there's more grief now.
Yeah, and there's more ways than one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Speaking
two-way seeing that you were talking about. Yeah, there's more ways than one.
Yeah.
But speaking of the ways we've been addressing it too, I remember 10 years ago, Sakkusivik, programs like that didn't exist. Programs created by Inuit didn't exist. And the only training that you could get as an Inuk who lives in the communities that makes you feel like you have any ability to influence or control whatever is going on around you was assist, which is the most extreme end of the spectrum of when someone could be getting help. And
Yeah,
now,
that's the suicide prevention.
yeah, applied suicide intervention training.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a whole generation of us that were getting that training.
Yeah.
And I remember getting it more than once and never being able to execute the material in real life. Because it didn't come from us and it wasn't addressing the issue. The issue is not the fact that people are choosing to end their lives. The issue is that we're not supported in our grief and trauma. And finally, we're able to pick up the shreds of our society. I really believe right now as Inuit that the fabric of our society is completely disintegrated.
Yes, I agree.
And we're in a place where we're trying to put it back together in a way that we've never had to.
Yeah. And it's so big.
Yeah.
And everything you want to fix, behind that, there's 12 other things you need to fix. And then,
and
just...
people you want to help.
Yeah.
And you can't help everyone. Some people won't accept help or don't believe they need help. And just how much every single one of us has going on.
Yeah.
On top of, whatever personal trauma we've had, the grief from loss, but also the grief that we experience from the violence that we see around us. Because, none of us are shielded from violence in ways that Southerners are. Or non-Indigenous people are. And so from a very, very, very young age, we are exposed to these lateral violent systems and this unsound society, unstructured way of life, having come from a whole complete society. And now we are and we're also expected to keep up with the world around us, keep up with the other college kids our age, keep up with the people who are, working in our company. And it's not that we're not equipped, it's just that we're completely overloaded. Like
our nervous
100%
system is
of the
always
time.
overloaded.
Yeah. So these initiatives are making a difference and bringing us back from the extreme of suicide prevention as the act of suicide prevention. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And maybe if we're looking at the two-eyed seeing, hey, like I recognize that I'm not living with what you guys live with every day. Like when you share, just in your own community, like again and again, and in your own families, again and again and again. And so maybe sometimes the two-eyed seeing is like just saying to us who are non-Inuit, okay, this is what I need from you. And helping us learn what our role actually is, because we got it wrong when we came in and said what our role is, right? And so the more, and I feel like I feel like there's some people who do that with me, and I appreciate it. That are, just direct with me. This is what I need. This is what I don't need. Stop talking. Stop asking questions.
Because you feel safe.
Be silent.
You feel welcome. I would feel welcome to be like that with you.
And so I would demand that. Like, you know what? I don't feel safe with you. We need to start differently. I am Inuk, and I know better of what I need and what my community needs, and it's time for you to listen. We don't listen nearly as well as what you were describing in that home, yeah? And so I guess I just want to give permission to people to take the power back again, yeah? Because I think there's a lot of us, too, that feel better about what we do when we feel like we're doing it with your like in sync with you. And we don't know always how to do that either. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much in this subject.
Yeah, it's true.
So much. It's so deep and so hard sometimes and necessary. And we could talk on and on, but we're out of time already. And we're gonna talk about this again in the future, I'm sure, right?
I just want to say, like, just talking amongst each other is healing.
Yes.
And we're
And
just
it's
talking amongst
inspiring.
friends.
Yeah.
That's counseling. And I
Yes.
always keep that in mind because you mentioned that before is your talks with your friends is counseling.
Yeah, you don't have to be like
It doesn't have to be
accredited,
professional.
like psychologist, doctor.
No.
To help someone. And that's what we tell our participants all the time, because a lot of times people say, well, I'm not equipped. I'm not certified. I'm not qualified to help anyone. I can't counsel anyone. Like the word counseling is daunting, but really we're listeners. If we just learn to listen to people talking and just allow them to talk about their hurts and just be there to listen and support, and that's
all sometimes people need.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, you're demanding answers from them or let it out.
you don't have to have all the answers.
And nobody does.
And nobody has all the answers.
Nobody.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shawna and Leah, for being so generous.
Thank
with
you.
your knowledge.
Yeah, I'm really grateful.
Can we book you again?
It was an honor to be here.
Yeah, very much so. And for me too, like I receive a lot, hey, and I did again today. So thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, nakome kisumay nak ilon nasi. Piyari kwalawing migata. Utilari vusi. Come back to another episode of Northern, and to everyone at home, thank you for your constant support. If you want to support us further, go to our Patreon on patreon.com/Northern and join us over on Discord to keep this conversation going. You can ask us anything and we'll happily reply. Take care. Yeah.